Thank you. It's an honor to be up here. It's humbling. And I just get up here and I say, Lord, have your way with me in what he wants to present. So anyway, wasn't Clinton great last week? Clinton and I and Cassandra and Daphne and I, we've become real good friends ever since we first went down there, and they come out and they stay with us. And you talk about having fun with laughter and stuff and joy of the Lord. It's all over him. And so last week when Clinton was speaking, he was talking about identity. We've been talking about identity here a lot, who we are, what we are, and how we are. And Clinton said, don't let somebody put a label on you. And he passed out all the little stickers for everybody. And so one of the other things that goes along with that is that you don't want to label yourself with the wrong label. It may sound good. It may look good. And people, I've seen people say, oh, you're supposed to be this, you're supposed to be that. You better be sure when people say that to you. Now, I'm going to tell us, I talked to Clinton this morning. Clinton is in the financial business now. He was before. He was incredible in the financial areas. He raised money. But a lot of people took advantage of him. A lot of people in the ministry took advantage of him. So he got out of that. He was still doing it. Then he became a pastor for 15 years. Got totally bombarded, went broke, all this. And so he's complaining to the Lord, and the Lord said, I never told you to become a pastor. So you think about that. He said, so now Clinton is back in the financial field. He's working on some other things like what he started. He is getting blessed so fast in there, it's amazing. And so, we were laughing about it because I had that word for him when I first went down to San Diego. I said, I don't think you're supposed to be a pastor anymore. And so he fought it and stuff, but now he's back in. He said to Daphne, he says, I am so happy now. I'm back. He says, I can go. He still preaches. He's a preacher. He's a good one. He's a wonderful singer, too. Well, this is the thing that we got to get through our heads sometimes. Jesus spent 3 years in his ministry, basically. What did he do before that? He was a carpenter. Do you realize he was a carpenter probably for 20 years? Living in the marketplace, providing a service, and from all accounts, his father passed away. He had to run that business for the family. He was the oldest son. Now, we tend to think as ministry being in here. It's not. It's out there. The one word we don't understand, or we don't really take to heart all the time, when Jesus said, go ye into the world, make disciples of all nations. Well, you can expect people to come in here, get healed, and get saved, but, they're going to come in here very rarely. Our calling is to go out in the world. Now, how many people in here are in business? Okay. And some are going to go into business. There's some things that are, quite odd about the ministry. Now, a lot of people know this, but what I want to do, is read, it's what I got, but a guy named Ed Silvoso puts it a lot better and succinct. But he said, there's 4 lethal misbeliefs in the church. He says that there is a God-ordained division between clergy and laity. That's a lie. There isn't. We're all anointed. Our areas of influence are probably different, but we come in here to get fed. Now, one thing I'll say about the group of leaders here, they're all in business. Jim's still in business. Ted's a farmer. Russ is in roofing. I'm in construction. Debbie and Gary, they are the absolute most living proof of marketplace ministry that I know in their business. They are there. They touch and reach more people. She probably would have 3 testimonies a week up here. But, that's a great model for any of us, is that. The church is called to operate primarily inside a building often referred to as a temple. No, this is a sheep shed, like Albie says. We're the church. We're called to go out and influence the world, okay? Don't hide our light, under the deal. As we go out, we need to be bold, we need to be direct, and we have faith that God is with us at all times. People involved in business cannot be as spiritual as those serving in traditional ministry. And then the last one, the primary role of marketplace Christians is to make money to support the vision of those in ministry. And I've seen that happen in churches, and it was way off. It was way off. I'm telling you. I know some of you know in here about that. I mean, it was a long time ago, but I saw that happening, and I walked. And anyway, but there's people in here that are very good at what they do, and I've seen people get out of ministry. I had a good friend. He's a contractor out here. Unbelievable teacher of the Word. And he says, you know, I'm thinking of starting a church in La Quinta. I went, why? I said, we got enough churches and pastors. I said, you're a really good businessman. You're a good teacher. Go teach. And he does. Him and his son started a teaching ministry online. He's still very successful. He owns businesses, but he's able to really bless the kingdom with that. He, he's just good at what he does. And he's a very strong Christian, but I believe that if he went in to be a pastor, I think it would hurt his walk. Now, that may be my own opinion, but I felt that's what the Lord told me because I blurted something out to him. I said, you should go into politics. And he looked at me and he went, huh. He said, I just got that the other day from somebody else. So, you know, I mean, if the Lord will use a donkey, he'll use me too, right, guys? So, then as you go through the Bible, you know, like I said, Jesus was a carpenter for all those years. Why did God make him a carpenter? It was preparation. You know, Michael, you look at the walk he has. You know, he's a prophet of God. He's called to be a prophet. But till he was 35, he worked in the hotel business. He still ran ministries and did everything, but he learned a lot in there. One day you're going to hear him speak on the marketplace, and it is phenomenal. You have no idea. Jim and I were down in San Diego, and Debbie and Gary and Josh, you were there, weren't you? Yeah, I mean, he spoke for 4 hours. It seemed like an hour on the marketplace. I was stunned. And he hasn't done that here yet, but he will. He will. It's coming. But as you go through, all through the Bible, you start seeing these men that they wrote stories about. They were all marketplace men. Abraham, very wealthy, the father of us all. Father, you know, of the spirit of us all. Now you take Joseph. What an incredible, his story to me is one of the most phenomenal. He gets thrown in prison. His brothers sold him to slavery. He goes through all this stuff, but he had a talent, okay? That talent, once Pharaoh saw it, he made him head of everything in Egypt, you know? Now, what if he said, I think I'm going to go be a pastor in AI or something? You know, it would have been a different deal. But if you're good at something, allow God to move you into the area where you're talented at, where you can be an influence, you know? I mean, it's so important because sometimes we leave here and we don't do anything. I've been guilty of it, you know, where I don't say things and stuff. Now I do. I got convicted of that. You got Joseph. He was in administration. Daniel, same thing, administration under Nebuchadnezzar. Nehemiah was a builder. He got sent out. He was a cupbearer. But he was obviously a very good builder because they said when he did that, he did it so quickly. You know, that was his gift. David was a shepherd. You know, he was a good shepherd. That's a pastoral heart. Then you get down Elisha. You know, Elisha's a prophet and all that. But when he was called out of that field, he had 12 oxen. That is a very rich man, his family there. So, you know, relook sometimes at your circumstances of what you're doing and where you're at, because where you're at is where God put you at. So do the very best you can. I've seen people, you know, well, I'm just waiting until I do this. Joseph's the most amazing. He was incredible man of integrity wherever he went. And finally, I mean, he went through it, but when he got blessed, and he was unbelievable in what he did. You know, and then when Jesus came, and he picked the guys to be his cohorts, you know, and starting the Christian movement. He got a doctor. He got a tax collector. He got fishermen. He, you know, later on, Paul was a tent maker. These guys kept working at times. You know, Paul says, I don't want anybody to say that they took care of me. So he kept making tents. Look what else he did. He also wrote most of the New Testament. You know, so sometimes we can get, you know, into this ministry thing and we're missing the point. you're a Christian, wherever you set your foot and you walk, you have influence if you'll allow God to flow through you. You know, and I mean, that is a key. And, there is no, it says the love of money is the root of all evil. It doesn't say money. Then you look, Jesus talked a lot about money in there. He talked about the talents. The one guy that just hit it, The one guy that went out, reinvested, and did all that, he got blessed. This is where the church needs to move to. We don't need to be the church that looks at it and then, like this. The church has to turn around to where we're funding businesses. We have people that are in the world. They get together. Now, I think you're starting to see God move in different areas. I think he's starting to move in the government in this election because there's business people coming up. And, there's people in there. Why? I don't know. I don't know who's going to get elected, I haven't made up my mind, who I really like yet. I know who I'm not voting for, but that's okay. I won't share that. But, the church is called to go out into the world. When you look at the church, the first 10 years when it was started, it stayed in Jerusalem. It wasn't growing that much. But they started getting persecuted. They had to leave Jerusalem and go into the world. It exploded. It exploded. And that, so that sometimes we got to get rid of that complacency that we can have. Where, well, we're not going to do this. Wouldn't you love to see the church explode? Okay. Well, and if, we've been praying for revival. If it comes, let's get ready. And I mean, getting ready, it's going to be messy. There's going to be people coming in, but, with the joy of the Lord and the fun that's going to see, we're going to see some strange things, There's going to be, all kinds of things go on. We're going to see people that are going to come to the Lord quickly and get raised up quickly. We're in a very exciting time now in the church. And, one thing that, they say, well, the wealth isn't good. Man, there's people, you're going to see the church. And when this church was called a prototype, it's finally dawning on me that this is a prototype because there's really no professional, what I call professional ministers in here. We're all working stiffs who have come together to bring this church up and to just help oversee it. But there's other people here that are going to be overseeing. And, there's a lot, I hear it all the time, well, I'm called to do this, and I'm called to do that. And I was asking the Lord one time, I said, how am I called? What am I doing? And so I said, well, I want to do this. And I didn't do some things and the Lord says, no, through me, you're capable to do all those things. You're capable to run 2 or 3 businesses. There's a man, Norval Hayes. Wonderful man of God, goes all over the country. Some of you know him, know who he is. He's in his late 80s now. He started 3 restaurants. He started car dealerships and all kinds of things, and he still runs his ministry. And, it's kind of a biblical principle if you look back. I mean, Jesus, like I said, 20 years, Paul kept making the tents. And, the only thing I can do is encourage you to look around. It says the harvest is ripe. We don't have many workers. What's the harvest is a marketplace. The harvest is out there. That's why Jesus used all these terms of farming, marketplace, all these, the stuff he used, the talents, all those parables were based on marketplace because people understood it. And, the basic fact is, in here, we're going to get a few stragglers come in, or we're going to be trying to see miracles amongst each other. Man, we get out in the world. You start praying and doing things out in the world, you're going to see them come flooding in here. We've started getting a pretty good trickle in here. We have, and I'm not denying that. But once we get out into the world and we start doing it and do it boldly, I mean, we'd all love to be as bold as Debbie. That's not the easiest thing in the world, but, I'm working towards that. But, Jeff's bold as can be. There's a lot of people. But don't discount what you're good at, because what you're good at, God gave you, probably for a reason. I've seen more misplaced people. I've seen misplaced pastors, men that were put into pastoral position that shouldn't have been there. And they should have been doing something. Some of them, said, well, I didn't know what else to do. I was trained at this institute, and so I just thought I was going to be a pastor. There was one story I read where the guy says, I'm miserable. I've been a pastor for 15 years, And the guy, he says, I hate it. He goes, what do you want to do? He says, I want to be a baker. So the guy says, be a baker. He went, really? He said, yeah. The guy became a very successful baker. You know, I mean, think about that. That's like I said, Jesus was a carpenter first, a lot longer than he was, the 3 years that he started, being our Savior. That's phenomenal, that he would choose a profession like that. But there's reasoning behind it. We read all the stories about his ministry, but then you look at the other stories. Now I'm going to finish with one the Lord showed me the other night. Sometimes it tells you, but it kind of has a little business related at the end. When Mary and Joseph had left Jerusalem and they're heading back to Nazareth, they got about halfway and they decided to stop for lunch with the caravan. And Joseph said, where's the Son of God? She went, I thought he was with you. She goes, no, he was with you. No, they lost God. Can you believe that? They lost him. They were entrusted with him, and they lost God there. So suddenly, now Daphne and I were laughing. I said, if it had been you and me, she'd have blamed it all on me. And she'd have said, well, you're the father. I'd say, well, not really. Anyway, so then they all sit there. Now, I was thinking about what would we do as leaders here? They stopped for lunch. Ted would raise his hand and says, let's fast and pray and see if we can find out where he is. Okay? Jim would lay hands on all the young guys that looked like they could run and say, you were made for a time as this. Go find him. Okay? Did you hear that one, Bane? Okay, good. Barry and Fran, they would go, oh, what are we going to do? He has abandonment issues now. We're going to have to counsel him. Russ, he'd text everybody and say, I'm not into children's ministry. Just leave me alone. It's not my calling. Anyway, so a little bit here. But when they got back there, and it took them 3 days to find him, and he was in the temple. Is that ridiculous or what? Here they lose the Son of God they're entrusted with. And they get there, and what did he say? He goes, what do you mean? He says, I was here about my Father's business. My Father's business. Well, the Father's business is our business. No matter what business you're in, embrace it. Do your utmost for his highest. Look at a man like Brother Lawrence. Was a dishwasher. And had an incredible, they wrote, but they still talk about him to this day. And so, I see people, I know so many from business. I know Oscar from business. He's my accountant, and so I know Mike does painting for me. I'm learning with Jeff in business. Jeff has a talent at electric. I didn't know it, but through our relationship here, one day he comes in and suddenly, we've had more guys work on the air here. In one day he figured out everything and fixed it. So if you need a scruffy-looking electrician, you got one back there right away. Anyway, but that is a real talent Jeff has. There's people in here, I don't know all your talents, what they are. I kind of get a sense. I know Swan's called into the business world. And like we last week, saying he's going to reach people through where he is and what he does that none of us could reach. I reach people in the construction business, and they come in cussing all the time, saying all this stuff. I just smile at them, and and then if there's anything wrong with them, we just send them to Barry and Fran, so they'll fix it. But we all have things, and sometimes ask God, say instead of looking to well, maybe I should be doing this or I should be doing that, look to what you're good at, and say, Lord, can you use what I'm good at? And this is this is what I enjoy doing. And I believe that if you enjoy doing something, as long as it's good for you, and not, that's a God-given ability, it's a God-given talent, and it should be exploited. God will help you exploit that. So anyway, I thank you.